So it's been quite a few years ago, but I was doing a presentation at it was at a local food store that is no longer around actually, and had a crowd of probably 25 people or so. But I remember this one couple coming in, and as they were coming in, the wife had a limp on her that um, and she came down and sat down into the crowd, and we did some talking, and then we did some tapping, and I think it was just a simple uh, relaxation tapping we were doing, um, presenting it. And as I looked over, I happened to notice that she was crying, and I stopped for a moment, went over to her, just said, "Is there something that I can help you with?" And she she started to talk about that she was in an accident about a year before this. And ever since that accident, she got this knot in her hip that she couldn't get rid of. Um, and she said, I tried everything, she talked about doctors and medicines and chiropractors and different things that would make this go away, but it would always kind of come back, or it wouldn't last very long. And she said while we were doing the tapping, she said that it felt like a, an explosion in her hip, and it tingled down her leg and went out of her leg and was gone. And of course, I was feeling like the preacher that, be healed, and she heals and she walks. But she got up and she walked across the stage, and there was no limp on it. And so she was so impressed by it that she decided to join me for some sessions, which we did. And what kind of came out of it, out of the whole thing, was really surprising because as we worked through things, we started to realize one of the problems was the night of the accident, she and her father had a business together, and they loved each other. They had worked well together, all of that kind of thing. But that night, she was going to be traveling from the office after she gets off to go down to her brother's house, which is about 3 hours down. And her brother was in town, and they were heading back to his house. So when they got out of the office, they were getting into the car, and her um, dad was getting into the back seat. She was getting into the front seat. She said, "Dad, would you mind if I swapped with you, because I've got, I've got, I'm tired and I want to just take a little nap." And he was no problem. They switched out. On the way down there, they got into an accident, and her dad didn't make it through
Mm,
the accident.
mm,
And this poor lady lived with this problem of the fact that she got out of the front seat and got into the back seat, and think about all the negative things that she went through. The terms in her head were, "I'm a terrible daughter," you know, it should have been me. All of these negative things in her mind were building up in her, and we had to really work through that and show her a little different side of that, one that her father wouldn't want her to be that way, or all of that. But it took a lot. But it was what was funny about it is that, she went through the program, never got another healing in her hip,
never got more pain in her hip.
never got pain in her hip, excuse me. And um, about a year later, her husband came into one of my another workshop, and I talked to her about it, and she never got it back. And what it always sent to me was this message of, it isn't just about the bodily. It's what goes on up here that makes the difference. That makes a huge difference in how you heal yourself.